But with that, Will Ashton, let's just get into our main review this week, which is the Lego Movie 2, the second part. I really love, that's one of my favorite sequel titles in a little while. I like the cleverness there. So this is it's great. This is a direct follow-up to the Lego Movie from Warner Brothers / Warner Animation Group in 2014. Now, we've seen 2 other Lego movies come out since that first one. They've both been spin-offs. We kind of alluded earlier. One of them was the Lego Batman movie, which, fun fact, was the first film we ever reviewed on Cinemaholics. And then they also came out with the Lego Ninjago movie later that same year. Now, I know I didn't even watch that one. Will Ashton, did you see Lego Ninjago?
I did. I saw it on DVD. It's pretty good. I liked it a little more than most critics, I think, because I guess by that point it was like 2 Lego movies in about like 6 months span of time.
Right. Yeah.
So I think I saw it like maybe a couple months after that. So it might have been like a year after Lego Batman. So maybe I was a little more receptive to it. And I also have a big appreciation for martial arts movies. So I think I like that one about the same, if not maybe more than Lego Batman.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And I know both you and I definitely liked the Lego movie. I didn't love it. Did you like it or love it?
Lego Batman?
The first Lego.
Oh, Lego movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like the Lego movie. That's that holds up as well. I was rewatching it this week, and I think it's quite good.
I've only seen it the once. I have a feeling I probably would like it a second time. I wasn't as enchanted with it in theaters when it came out, but I know people really love that film, and I can definitely see why. Now, I think I disliked Lego Batman a bit more than most people did, including you, but that film, too, was pretty well received. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I disliked it. I think I didn't like it nearly as much as everyone else. I really liked the first 15 minutes, and then I was kind of checked out for the rest.
No, actually, I was saying, like, I think I agree with you. Like, I was about the same, so I felt like it was like a cute concept that I think as a feature-length film kind of overstayed its welcome. Like, I remember feeling exhausted by it in a way that I didn't feel exhausted watching the other Lego movies, including this one. So I think it's fine. I just don't get the people who are like, it's basically on par with the Lego movie. I'm like, that's bold and audacious to say, and I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I definitely can't get on that same train. Now, unlike Lego Batman and Lego Ninjago, the Lego Movie 2 is a true sequel to the first film, which was directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. They're co-writers this time around with Matt Fogel, and the director in this new film is Mike Mitchell, who most recently did Trolls, but he also did Sky High, which is a guilty pleasure of mine, and Deuce Bigalow Mil Gigolo, which I have a feeling...
Not that one.
I have a feeling, yeah, definitely need to clarify. I have a feeling Deuce Bigalow is some people's guilty pleasures. And Shrek Forever After, which, Will, I know you have a pretty authoritative opinion on, I'm sure.
Really? That's actually the one I feel like most indifferent about in the Shrek cinematic universe, which is that I say cinematic universe because there's Puss in Boots, so I can qualify as such.
Yeah.
I feel like it's okay. Like, it's not a bad ending. It's certainly a better ending than Shrek the Third. But I just felt like, I just remember thinking at that time, like, you kind of overdid this. Like, it's too little too late. Like, it's just an okay movie that doesn't really have the same weight as the first 2 films.
All right. Well, then, moving on from the Shrek portion of this review, the Lego Movie 2 continues the adventures of the master builders from the first film. They include Emmett, once again voiced by Chris Pratt, Lucy, who is played by Elizabeth Banks, and of course, Lego Batman, voiced by Will Arnett, who has a bigger role in this film than I anticipated. The sequel takes place 5 years after the event of the first, again, a bigger gap than I anticipated, and Bricksburg has been renamed Apocalypseburg. So the film sort of starts out with a Mad Max Fury Road post-apocalyptic motif and goes from there. We do have a clip from the movie here to set the scene. We see a new villain character named General Mayhem, voiced by Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She has invaded Apocalypseburg and has demanded our heroes bring forth their fiercest warrior. Here's the clip.
Bring me your fiercest leader.
Yeah, that's me. This guy coming through. I'm the leader of...
You! I don't think so.
When everyone became the special, didn't we all become leaders?
I sense no leadership qualities from you. My readout confirms you to be soft, fragile, and a less than worthy opponent.
Hey, you watch what you say about Emmett. He saved the universe a few years back.
This guy was a fierce warrior?
Okay, well, technically, I did the warrior stuff, but...
So, you fought, and master built, and kicked butt, and then the hapless male was the leader.
Well, he was a symbol for that we all have ideas.
But you did all the work.
Whoa, hey. Emmett is the sweetest, most optimistic guy you could ever meet. And I know those qualities are not useful anymore, and that Emmett isn't changing with the times and lacks a killer instinct and in general just isn't tough enough.
Not tough enough?
Yeah, but this guy is the special. Well, at least he was.
All right, that is from the Lego Movie 2, the second part. It's getting rave reviews from critics, and I saw this a few weeks back. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I actually find it a bit more interesting and lasting than the first film, which I have a feeling I'm a minority opinion on, but I will say it's definitely not quite as funny as the first film in my opinion, and at least in some parts. But Will, where do you stand on this new film? How do you think it compares to the first?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, I really have a special place in my heart for that first Lego movie because I don't know if I was quite as cynical about it as some other people were, but I definitely was fairly worried going in. Like, is this just going to be a huge brand special? And, is it just going to be like a commercial for 90 minutes I have to pay to see? And I would say to the credit of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they turned something that could have been just obnoxious and loathsome into something that was really sincere and sweet and creative. And I think the movie is, I don't know if it's quite on the same level as Toy Story 1 or even the Toy Story movies in general, but I do think it reaches their heights way more than I anticipated. And I think that is something that basically continues with the sequel. I don't know if I'm quite as high on the film as you are. I think having the surprise factor not be in this sequel, I think ultimately hurts it more than I would have liked. And I do think that having had 4 Lego movies in this universe kind of takes the steam out of it a little bit, because I think the kind of winking, self-aware sense of humor kind of loses its charm maybe after 4 times. But I will say, I think the sequel has a lot to like. I enjoyed all the new characters. I think it's pretty great that it's also a musical. Was something I was not anticipating. I think that was something I ultimately enjoyed. And I thought the voice acting was good. I especially think, a lot of people give Chris Pratt flack, and I think for reasons justified and not. But I think his voice acting in these movies is really good. I think it's some of his best work, and I think that's especially true in this one, as he plays 2 different characters, Emmett Brikowski. I think that's the last name of his main character, right? Brikowski.
Sounds right. Yeah, I don't think they even said it in this new film.
Yeah, and then who's the new character? I can't remember
Rex.
his name off the top of my.
Oh, it's the most memorable name of 2019, Rex Dangervest.
Dangervest, that's it. I knew it was something with a vest. So, this character, I thought, to his credit, I thought it was Kurt Russell at first. And I was like, is this a Guardians 2 reunion?
Yeah, because he's definitely a send-up of the Snake character, right? From the 80s.
Yeah, it's like Snake. It's Snake and Jack Burton. It's like a mix of the two.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's basically 80s Kurt Russell, molded into one interpretation with a little bit of John Wayne thrown in there at times. That character is a lot of fun. As far as the performance, I think you can tell that Chris Pratt's having a lot of fun playing that part.
Yeah, we should say, there's a real life charm to the relationship between Chris Pratt and Kurt Russell. Ever since they did Guardians 2 together, you do kind of get the sense that Kurt Russell's kind of like a mentor figure to him in real life. So that extra factor, it's sweet.
It's a loving impersonation, I think. And I was wondering, because I don't know how far along or how far ahead they record dialogue for animated movies, but do you think they were doing that line reading during filming of Guardians 2 or shortly before or thereafter?
No, definitely not, because Guardians 2 was recording in probably 2016, and this movie, they were probably wrapping up production in either the very end of 2017, so way after Guardians 2 came out, or beginning of 2018, if not later.
So it's safe to say that his time on Guardians 2 probably informed this performance of Rex, which I think makes sense. I think that's what I think makes it stand out, because it could have been, grating if it was just an impersonation, but I think having that loving factor and also the writing that stands out makes it work. But yeah, overall, I like the film, but I would say you were saying it's going to stand the test of time more than the first one or something like that?
No, I wouldn't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's more lasting for me than the first one. Something about the message clicked with me a little bit more than the Lord president business plot in the first film, which I don't think a lot of people will be on the same page on. But for whatever reason, that didn't really hit me. But what they did in this film hit me more for some reason. So I don't know why. Maybe because I do have a sister.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I think this one, the only thing I can think that's going to really hurt this movie is that I think it's just going to be forgettable compared to the first one, in my opinion. I just don't think it has that same memorable quality to it. Maybe it's that surprise factor, I don't know. But I do think the first movie...
I could definitely see that happening.
But I think that first movie, I think the message is a little more dense than what you're implying. I think it's more about, like, individuality and, like, being... like the fear of being ubiquitous and like even like the kind of cold nature of commercialism, which is something I was not anticipating in a movie sponsored at least in part by Lego. So I think there's a lot going on in that first movie. I think there's a lot going on in this movie too. I would say, if anything, I'm kind of surprised that this movie basically stole Ralph Breaks the Internet's thunder and basically just did its message better 2 months later.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Right.
Ralph Breaks the Internet didn't quite work for me. And I don't even think I thought about Ralph Breaks the Internet until after this movie wrapped up and it started to click with me like, oh, they're kind of doing the same thing, both these films.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not the same exact thing, but it's like pretty similar. And it's similar enough in a short amount of time in a similar genre where it's just like, yeah, I kind of wish, like, especially if this had come out before Ralph Breaks the Internet, I think I might have been even more critical of Ralph Breaks the Internet. And I think I've grown more sour to that film since we talked about it, though I still think it's okay. But yeah, I'd say this movie, by and large, as far as animated sequels are concerned, is a pretty darn good one.
Yes. I don't think either of us will say it is awesome, but I do think it is nice. It's a good film. And I think the things about this one that I like the most are, like you were mentioning, the character arc of Emmett and his entire dynamic with Rex Dangervest, I think, was different and interesting for me. There was something to that where it's sort of tracking Chris Pratt's acting career. I mean, this movie gets as meta as it gets, and as meta as it gets. And I really like that because, you know, when you think about it, Lego Movie was one of the first sort of modern meta films to really be born out of the Community era, in the sense that it was, you know, this movie came out before Deadpool, right? It came out before movies started getting more and more self-aware. And that was a great surprise factor with that film, you know, not just the real life, you know, plot twist revelation toward the end of the Lego Movie, but also this idea of like spoofing lots of characters from Warner Brothers and DC and all of that. And in this film, what they're doing is they're getting more meta about the voice actors. And I like that. I like that decision. I think that it leads to some genuinely heartfelt moments, especially considering Chris Pratt's career and how it's changed over the years. You know, I remember when Jurassic World was coming out, he was going through a lot of intense stuff. And I mean, we don't have to get into his personal life or anything, but obviously it's been kind of a rough 2 years for him. I think he's about to get married to a new person and all this stuff.
Yeah, Catherine Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. And, you know, all of that put aside, right? I think that Chris Pratt's somebody who has been in the spotlight for a few years, and Hollywood can be a devastating, vicious place. And there was just something kind of nice about seeing him in this role again, you know, being Emmett again. And because it has been 5 years since the first Lego Movie. And I like that they put this off, because I know they originally were going to do the sequel a lot earlier than this. They were going to do it, I think, in 2017. And instead they pushed it so that they could do Lego Batman and Lego Ninjago. And I'm glad they did, because I think that gap of time helped this story a lot more than it definitely would have if it had just been 3 years, right? That's just my opinion. And I also like what Tiffany Haddish is doing in here as this sort of this quasi-villain character in the Sistar system. Once again, this film has so many puns and things like that that are fun. You know, I think that this is a very inoffensive, harmless movie. I like that. I wasn't on board with where they were going with Lego Batman until they sort of paired him with the Queen character. And there are some generally great moments. You mentioned it was a musical, and I don't love the music in this at all, honestly, but I did find the concepts of them fun. Like the one that's like, this song will get stuck in your head, and I'm not into Gotham, guys. You know, there's always good writing, even if the music itself doesn't work for you. So Yeah, I'm a fan of this one. I think that it's good for great for kids, good for adults. It's not the sort of, to what you're saying, like Toy Story 2 level of like, wow, the sequels just came out of nowhere and it managed to capture lightning in a bottle twice. I know I'm mixing up my metaphors, but it does a serviceable job. You can tell that Phil Lord and Chris Miller worked on this one. I worry a little bit about how those two filmmakers are maybe in some ways going back to the same bag of tricks here and there. I don't know if that's fair to say. It just feels like their style of comedy, we didn't really get to see it fully realized in Solo: A Star Wars Story. But I wonder, Will, what do you think is next for these guys? Do you think that they've maybe sort of lost it? Or do you think that because they are just screenwriters, that lack of control, you can sort of excuse maybe this one not being quite the comedic, wonder bar that the first Lego movie was?
Well, I don't think they've lost it by any means. I think, if anything, they're at a career triumph right now with this and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But yeah, I do think. Well, for one, I don't want to give them too much credit for both those films, because I do think like they weren't the directors, like they were just involved as producers, and then for this film they were writing it, and then Phil Lord wrote Spider-Verse. But yeah, I do think as far as their future, I was talking about this with Matt yesterday. I don't quite know what's next for them. I don't know if they're going to get back into directing soon, because I feel like they probably were burnt by the Solo experience, and I can understand if they were kind of concerned about like getting involved with something that big again. They might do something smaller, maybe something that they can have a little more control on. I don't know what's next for them. It could be something similar to this, like another sequel. Yeah. They might just put their eggs back into Spider-Verse and like work on the sequels and spin-offs that are coming into that.
Yeah,
but I really don't know.
Do any film with Sony, right? They could do all kinds of things with them. They have all kinds of characters in their arsenal.
It would be weird to go to Sony for stability at this point, but I guess that's yeah. But no, yeah, I just wish the best no matter what happens for them. I think they are genuinely talented. I think they're really smart, thoughtful filmmakers who really, I think, put as much as they can into each film with their name on it. So, yeah, that's the thing about Solo, right? Is that like I don't think how that went down is by any means good. Like I find that it was very much a distressing, sad situation for basically everyone involved. But at the same time, if they hadn't been let go from that film, I don't think Spider-Verse and Lego Movie 2 would be what they are. I think their influence was found in each. That's not to say either of them would be bad. I think Spider-Verse certainly would still be good, and I think this would probably be fine. But I do think having each of them involved probably did help in some way or another. So there's
no way we can know for sure.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So, I'm glad that they are kind of picking themselves back up again, and I only wish them the best from here.
Same here. Yeah. Back to Lego Movie 2, though, there are some things where, I still don't fully understand the appeal of some of the other characters. I know, Alison Brie, Charlie Day, Nick Offerman, they all do characters in this one as well. I know, Will Ferrell does Lord Business again for like a quick scene.
Yeah.
None of that really worked for me much. There is a surprise cameo in the real life world that we won't give away that I did find very funny, and I loved seeing Brooklyn Prince from the Florida Project again. That was when I realized it was her. I had no idea she was in this. That was lovely to see.
I like to think that is Mooney. That she's okay now.
She's okay.
I want to give Florida Project a happy ending in my mind.
Yeah.
Even though it did kind of have a happy ending in some respects.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's a can of worms.
Yeah. Well, no, I meant you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, not really, but okay, we'll move on. Yeah. So
I don't want to spoil the Florida Project, so go ahead.
Right. So yeah, I still don't really like a lot of these other characters in the film, to be totally honest. Like, they just don't stick out much to me, and this movie is pretty messy, around the edges. There's a lot of really weird plot turns that happen here that I was kind of, okay, what's going on? And there's a lull in the middle that had me kind of checking my watch a little bit, but it does come together by the end, and I think this one is a pretty worthwhile experience. It's great animation. I think it's obviously improved quite a bit in the last 5 years. Like, the detail on these actual Lego characters is so good, and it's just a seamless animation style, especially when they interwove it with the real world scenes, right? And you never. I feel like it never takes you out of the movie, which is a huge danger, right? Is if you keep getting too meta, it starts to be kind of a cumbersome experience, but it wasn't for me. I think that this is a wonderfully animated film with a lot of humor, some smart writing, and I think it's good. I would give it a B. What about you?
Yeah, I'm basically in line with that. I gave it a B as well. I think it's a solid sequel, and I enjoyed my time with it, but yeah, by no means does it reach the same heights as the first movie in my view.